So I'm back at the drums here. I did a lot of talking. I should do some playing, and hopefully after the playing you won't be thinking you shouldn't talk. But seriously, out of the many things that I could think of that I could play in a short time, I like to give a demonstration of a concept I've been thinking about lately, which came from asking myself, both for myself and for my students, how to groove better when you play a more modern, open, avant-garde, whatever type of jazz groove. Because, you know, when you play in the more bebop or mainstream fashion, you got so what you got is a steady or almost steady, because it's not doesn't have to be necessarily all the all the way through dance, bang, galang, but you can vary, of course. But when you do that in a more the more bebop fashion, basically speaking, once that you have a very good swinging right pattern, you basically interact with bass, drum, and snare, and you dialogue to some extent with the soloist. And the problem there is not to lose the focus on the right cymbal. And this has been said by many people for a long time, for the longest time, so I don't need to get very detailed about that. But the problem is when you play more, broken time, as they call it, where like Jack DeJohnette, for instance, or Roy Haynes, Elvin Jones to some extent, and many of the newer drummers as well. The first problem is that you don't have one limb that is doing the same ostinato figure all the time, such as the Spengler. And basically, there's a dialogue within yourself. I remember once I read an interview, a Jack DeJohnette interview, where he said, claimed that before dialogue, talking to or dialoguing with the other members of the band, he had a dialogue with himself, which is true, because if there's a dialogue going on between the four limbs. And we cannot think of this dialogue in terms, and once again, to some extent, it's not, 100% like this, but we cannot think of in terms of independence, because there's not really ostinato. And to think independence, you need an ostinato somewhere. Like, for instance, I have an ostinato here, whatever. Broken time, no ostinato. So how can you dialogue? So there's a couple of things I want to talk about. One is a concept that I learned from one of my teachers, an artist that I really love. He's one of the greatest drummers of all time to me. His name is Bob Moses. I'm sure you all know about him. Great mentor, friend, spiritual soul, and whatever, really great guy and great artist. He calls this the non-independent system, which is something that is been explained by Jack DeJohnette as well, although he doesn't call it like this, but it's the same concept. The basic idea, and I recommend Bob Moses' Drum Wisdom book, where he gets into the details of this, is that basically you don't use independence, but you use various stickings. For instance, if I were to play triplets with single strokes, hand to hand, it would be. But if I were to change the stickings in a random manner and still keeping the evenness of the strokes and the flow of the triplet, this creates a dialogue between the two hands. If I play on the, with my right hand on the small tom, it sounds, it's obvious. Okay? And. is a dialogue between the right hand and the left hand. In this instance, the right hand, like in most instances, is the leading part. So it's the lead. And, Gary Sheffield used to call the lead melody, which is the part that is being played by the lead hand, in my case, the right hand in this case, the external melody. Where the internal, the left hand will play the internal melody, which is the melody that fills inside the holes that are being left by the right hand. So it will sound like 3 and 4 and. So the two hands together make a whole, and the melody is both external and internal. And obviously I can, play louder the external melody or the internal melody, but that's another point which maybe I'll make later. But right now we stick to the right hand as a main melody, and what I'll do now, I'll just play, instead of playing on the thumb, I'll just play on the right cymbal. Same exact idea, although the stickings are improvised. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I were to hide the internal melody, it would sound like this. As you can hear, what happens is that my right hand is playing part of the triplets, and the part that is playing, it sounds like what it is, broken time. A little faster, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, if the right hand is playing broken time, which means right cymbals with a lot of variations, what is the left hand doing? The left hand is filling in the holes. So this is not an independence coordination type of approach, but it's more a linear type of approach where there's no unison between the hands. Okay, what is the role of the feet? For right now, I just play my hi-hat on 2 and 4 to make things simple. So what is the bass drum doing? The bass drum is playing along with unison with the right hand, which is fairly easy to do, at least much easier than the independence, because it's not something against something else, but it's together. Let's see how that sounds in a slow tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. Faster, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.